the screen. Boom. All right, hold on, Israel. We coming. There we go. All right. Shalom, Israel. Shalom, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh, Shah, Barakathum. Shalom, Shamar, Atham, Ba'ashem, Yahweh, Shah to the sisters. All right. It is the ISUPK. That's the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge out of Harlem, New York since 1969 under Commanding General Yohana. And we've been called to teach the so-called Black, so-called Hispanic, and so-called Native American people that we are the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Salakia on the issue that we're having with the sound. We had to switch over from the first broadcast. All right. So tonight's class is a heavy class. All right. This class is called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. All right. It's a very deep subject because what this going to do is it's going to lay out the issues and the problems that we're having and where they come from and how we can solve them. All right. Of course, we're going to be doing some time traveling. You're going to be time traveling with ISUPK. We're going to be going up and back and forth throughout time, looking at the state we were in prior to slavery, looking at the state of how we was prior to the whole fall of Israel. All right. So the first thing that I asked in this slide is this: since when do we start reading the book and you starting it in the middle and not in the beginning? Since when that start? Since when we say, okay, well, I'm just gonna read from the New Testament. I'm not gonna read the Old Testament, and I'm gonna get a clear understanding. Since when that started? Since when that happened? Since when that began? All right. So that's what we're going to be looking at tonight. We're going to be showing, and we're going to be going back to the beginning of the book and getting a layout of what exactly is going on. Now, the question is, what is post-traumatic slave syndrome? It's PTSS. All right. Can you read that up? Can you see that?
Okay.
Let's get it.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome, PTSS, is a theory that explains the etiology of many of the adaptive survival behaviors in African American Israelite communities throughout the United States and diaspora.
Right, but that means the diaspora, right? Yeah. So when it says it explains the etiology, right? Etiology, we got the definition right down in the left-hand corner. What post-traumatic stress syndrome theory, what it explains is the cause, the set of causes, or the manner of causation of a disease or condition. All right? That's what it is. So it's called post-traumatic slave syndrome. All right? And this is a doctor, Miss Dr. Joy. She's the one that brought a lot of this theory out. So it goes and says, post-traumatic slave syndrome. It is a condition that exists as a consequence of multi-generational oppression of the Israelites and their descendants resulting from centuries of chattel slavery. All right. It is a form of slavery which was predicated on the belief that African Americans, which are the Israelites, right? Can you finish that for me?
On the belief that African Americans, which are the Israelites, were inherently genetically inferior to whites. This was then followed by institutionalized racism, which continues to perpetuate injury.
It perpetuates injury, meaning the assault hasn't stopped. It's perpetual. It's still happening right now. And notice what it says. It says institutional racism. This is what causes this post-traumatic slave syndrome. All right. All of these things is very important. But one of the most important things in this paragraph is the multi-generational oppression of the Israelites. Very, very important. Now, just imagine, what is trauma? What is trauma, right? Imagine the trauma was so catastrophic, right, that it erased your mind. It erased your history. It erased your future. The so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we've been through such trauma that erased us. I want y'all to understand that. There's no one on the planet that's been through it. You know how people try to say that slavery was before, it was slaves before the Israelites? Well, I question you this. When have it ever been slavery where you erased them? I want y'all to understand, we were erased. Our minds was erased. One of the things that make a human is their root. What makes us is our root. We have a past. A tree without a root is dead. They cut our root off. They cut the root off from the tree, right? And completely erased us. So just imagine that. Imagine that. So now, what is trauma? Read that out.
What is trauma? Did you go to the next slide?
Go to the next slide.
Trauma is not just a physical injury.
So understand, it's not just physical, right? Go ahead.
Trauma is not just a physical injury, but an emotional response to a terrible event that overwhelms our ability to cope.
So imagine that. Imagine that. It is emotional response to a terrible event. Well, I'm here to tell you, there's not been an event on the planet that has happened to us that you can compare to anybody. I want to say that again. We was completely erased. We was completely erased. Our emotional response was definitely a terrible event. We had to respond to a terrible, terrible, terrible event that took place. And yes, it was definitely overwhelming. And the ability to cope was second to none, right? So what is this? What is syndrome? Read that out.
Syndrome is a term that describes a group of symptoms that occur together and indicate a specific condition or disorder.
Understand, the transatlantic slave trade, that happened and it occurred when? Together. Together. All right? So remember, as we going through this slide, there's a couple of things I wanted you to get. Trauma
like a second.
and syndrome. Understand, syndrome is a term that describes a group of symptoms that occurred together and indicated a special condition or order, all right? So now, the transatlantic slave trade, like I said, there was nothing that happened darker on, I can hear y'all, nothing that happened darker on the planet than the transatlantic slave trade, all right? And the question that I always ask myself, is anybody ever asked yourself, now that we in the truth, now that you're in the truth, you ever thought about, okay, why didn't we never hear about this in the Bible? As far as being a Christian, why we never heard about this? The slave trade being in the Bible. Like, you got to understand, if a Christian says that the slave trade is not in the Bible, then you got to ask yourself, well, do you understand and see the Bible as a book that's alive? Because it definitely happened, and it should be documented. All right? It definitely should be documented. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into our time traveling machine. We're going to get into our time traveling machine, and we're going to go back to 1400 BC. All right? We're going to go back to before the assault took place. We're going to go back before that trauma of the transatlantic slave trade took place. We're going to go back to a time when the post-traumatic slave syndrome didn't happen altogether. It didn't happen yet. So we're going to get into our time traveling machine. And you're going to get in with the ISUPK with Officer Tashiyama, and we're going to take that travel, right? We're going to go on back there, right? We're going to go back and we're going to look at King David. We're going to go back to 1000 BC, Salakia. Let me get back in there. Get back in my time traveling machine. We're going to move up a little bit, and we're going to go to King David, right? And we're going to look, during the time of King David, all 12 tribes was all together. That means all Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans was together. Excuse me? Salakia, what you got?
It's 1000 BC.
Oh, Salakia. You know what? Guess what we're going to do? We're going to change that right now. That's how we do. That's how we do. BC, the water. So we're going to go to 1000 BC, like I said, during the time of King James' reign. And we're going to begin to read. Now, understand the 12 tribes together, 12 tribes of Israel was all together. All right. And King David, he reigned over all 12 tribes. And King David executed judgment and justice unto all his people. Not just Israel, not just Judah, but all Israel. All right. All Israel. All Israel was together, but something happened. And this is what we really going to dig deep down and explore. So you want to go to 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 1. We're going to look at the time on when the split took place. All right. We're going to take a journey through the split. Look at the split. Look exactly what happened and where everyone went and how did the transatlantic slave trade take place. Right. You got it. 1 Kings chapter 11 and verse 1. Let's get it.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, verse 1.
Read.
But King Solomon loved many strange women,
Come on.
together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites,
Read.
of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods.
Come on.
Solomon clave unto these in love.
We got a lot of problems with that right now, with a lot of Jacobites, a lot of our brothers out here, Jacob, right? A lot of them is actually going inside of these temples and they're inside of these churches and they marrying women, and guess what? They ready to die for that white Yahweh Shah. Can I say that? Maybe I should keep them Jesus.
Right,
white
right.
Jesus.
That thing is
They ain't even sound right.
it's a lot.
They ain't even sound right. A lot of them do that. And they willing to die for it. And guess what? A lot of people willing to destroy their family for it, right? So Solomon cleaved to women and married many women of other nations who the Most High had told us not to marry, because he says, surely they would turn away your heart from following after your God, right? And you're going to follow after their God. But guess what? Solomon cleaved onto them anyway. Verse 4.
Verse 4. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father.
So his heart wasn't right. Go down to verse 6. His heart wasn't right. Why? Because he was following after other gods. Go ahead. What you got?
Hey, sir, is this an example of when brother said a woman can take you out of the truth?
Damn right. A woman can take you out of the truth. A woman to get you right up out of here. Because you'll start to have that. You start to get soft. I'm straight up. You start to get soft and you just compromise. I think once you start to get into a woman, you have to be careful when you're compromising. Because you could compromise to a point where the compromising is out of control, man. And next thing you know, you're getting all jammed up. You're trying to figure out what's going on because you're sitting in the corner trying to figure out, can you go outside or not?
I done seen it.
Yeah, and it happens. Verse 6.
Verse 6. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father.
Read.
Verse 7.
No,
Then-
go to verse 9.
Verse 9. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned away from the Lord God of Israel,
Come on.
which had appeared unto him twice.
Read.
Verse 10. And had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded.
So Solomon was not like his father David. And he was going after other gods like he should not. Listen, this is right now what y'all seeing is an excellent breakdown on giving you understanding on the split of the two of the northern kingdom. Israel, how the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom came into being. All right. So these precepts that we pull in right here is excellent for that. So y'all can log back in and get these precepts, because it'll give you a clear layout on what exactly is taking place and what's happening getting into the New Testament. You can't understand the New Testament without understanding this. All right. 1 King 11 and 11. Let's get it.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, verse 11.
Mhm.
Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee and will give it to thy servant.
So he's saying, I'm going to rip the kingdom from you. This is what the Most High is saying to Solomon, the son of David. Because he has done this, I'm going to rip the kingdom from you. All right? And I'm going to give it to your servant. That's what I'm going to give it to. I'm going to rip it from you and I'm going to give it to your servant. Verse 12.
Verse 12. Notwithstanding, in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake,
Come on.
but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son.
So he said, I'm not going to do it to you for your father's sake. That's how much the Most High loved David.
It's crazy.
Right? He said, I ain't going to do it to you, but I'm definitely going to do it to your son. All right? And I'm doing that for your father's sake. Go ahead.
Salakia, who was the servant that he gave it to?
Jeroboam. Jeroboam. Am I saying his name right? We'll see his name in a sec.
Concert.
I might not be pronouncing it right. Verse 13.
Verse 13. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom,
He said, I ain't going to rip away all the kingdom. Go ahead.
but will give one tribe to thy son for
That's
David.
vital. That one tribe is vital. That's vital. That one tribe. He says, I'm going to leave you one tribe to thy son. For who? Not for your sake, Solomon, but for whose sake?
For David, my servant's sake,
Come on.
and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen.
So he said, this is for David. This don't have nothing to do with you and Israel, right? 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 29. So now that the Most High had laid out and told Solomon, I'm going to rip the kingdom from your son, and I'm going to give it to your servant, and I'm going to leave you with one for David, thy father's sake. Now you're about to see who the servant is. All right? Jeroboam. Am I saying that right? Jeroboam.
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 Y'all got it.
Jeroboam.
1 Kings chapter 11, verse 29. Let's get it. Now, he's about to run into a prophet, and the prophet is going to break down to him and let him know what exactly is getting ready to happen.
Can you be 26 to show that it's Solomon's servant?
Come.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 11, verse 26.
Mhm.
And Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, and
Ephrathite.
Ephrathite of Zerata, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow woman. Even he lifted up his hand against the king.
All right, now go down to verse 29.
Verse 29. And it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him in the way,
Come on.
and he had clad himself with a new garment.
So he garbed himself with a new garment. He covered himself with a new garment. Go ahead.
And they two were alone in the field.
So now the prophet and Jeroboam is actually in the field together alone. All right. And the prophet is getting ready to break down to him and let him know that he's getting ready to receive the 10 tribes. Watch this. Verse 30.
Verse 30. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces. Verse 31. And he said to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces.
Take how many?
Take thee 10
Take
pieces.
10 pieces. Read.
For thus saith the Lord,
Come on.
the God of Israel,
Read.
behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon,
He said, I'm going to rip the kingdom out of the hands of Solomon. Read.
and will give thee, Salakia, and will give 10 tribes to thee.
Come on. Verse 31.
Verse 32.
31.
Okay, Salakia. That's
Oh,
the same
Salakia.
verse.
Hold on, wait a minute.
32.
32, Salakia.
Verse 32. But he shall have one tribe for my servant
He
David's
shall
sake.
have one tribe for my servant David's sake. Remember, this is all for David. And look, guess what? We know that David did what? He kept the laws, the statutes, and the commandments. David did the will of the Most High. Now you can see how far doing the will of the Most High takes you. It can bring a blessing to your son. It can bring favor to your family. Right? Verse 32.
Verse 32.
Read it again.
But he shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel.
And you're going to see this over and over and over again in this presentation. That one tribe is Judah. Judah is called Jews in the New Testament. I'm going to say that a lot because that's something that you need to drill into your head. That the word Jews in the New Testament, Jew, it can be talking about one tribe, which is the southern kingdom, or it can be talking about all 12 tribes. Context is everything. So now, after that happened, what happened? It was split into two. You had Solomon. After Solomon, the kingdom was split like into two. And you can see the two names, and you can see a map of how it looked. This is how it looked. If you look at this map, you'll see you got Judah, the kingdom of Judah. They were more, I would say, south, and Jerusalem and Israel would be more north, right? That's what we see. So we see about the prophecy and how it came to pass with the prophet telling Jeroboam about this split. But now we're gonna keep going, and we're gonna get to the southern kingdom. 1 Kings chapter 12. And you read verse 1. You can start at 1.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 12, verse 1. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel were come to Shechem to make him king. Verse 2. And it came to pass, when Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he was fled from the presence of King Solomon.
Verse 3.
Verse 3, that they sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spake unto Rehoboam, saying.
All right, so now everybody is going to the son of Solomon. Who is Solomon's son? Rehoboam. Rehoboam is Solomon's son, right? And Jeroboam is the servant. So everybody is going to Jeroboam, and this is what they have to say. Verse 4, read.
Verse 4, thy father made our yoke grievous. Now therefore make thou the grievous service of thy father, and his heavy yoke which he put upon us lighter, and we will serve thee.
So now they're asking Rehoboam for a lighter. They're asking for a lighter yoke. Because they're saying David was rough on us. David was hard on us. So they're asking for a lighter yoke. They're asking for some relief, right? Verse 5.
Verse 5. And he said unto them, depart yet for 3 days, then come again to me. And the people departed.
All right, so he gave them 3 days to think about. He said, listen, I'm going to think about it for 3 days, and then y'all come back. So he went and he spoke to the elders about the situation. So he got counsel from his elders, and then he got counsel from the young men. Let's see who counsel he took. Go down to verse 13.
Verse 13. And the king answered the people roughly, and forsook the old man's counsel.
So he forsook the old man's counsel. That the old man was saying, listen, make their burden light, make it light, make the yoke light, right? But he forsook the old men's counsel that they gave to him. Verse 14.
Verse 14. And spake to them after the counsel of the young men.
Come on.
Saying, my father made your yoke heavy, and I will add to your yoke.
So he said, look, I'm going to add to it.
That's crazy.
Sheesh. Put the heat on you, right? I'm going to add to. So if you thought that yoke was heavy, I'm going to give you even heavier yoke. Read.
My father also chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions.
Come on.
Verse 15. Wherefore the king hearkened not unto the people, for the cause was from the Lord, that he might perform his saying, which the Lord spake unto Ahijah the Shilonite, unto Jeroboam the son of Nebat.
All right, so what is he saying right there? When he says, for the cause was from the Lord. What do we mean?
The Lord told him to do it.
The Lord told him to do it. What else you got?
So it's asking, so was it like almost like hardening his heart in a sense?
You going all the way in. No, I ain't gonna say that.
Okay.
But what I am gonna say, the cause was from the Lord, is because remember the Lord prophesied. He told Solomon that he was gonna do this, and then the prophet came to him and he prophesied to Jeroboam that this was gonna happen. So this was the will of the Most High. This was a judgment that was coming down the pipe because of what took place. You know what this is like? This is like, you know what? That's gonna be too heavy. That's gonna be too heavy. If y'all got that right there, then we too wild, right?
That's like.
Go ahead. What you got?
I thought you were going to say that's when he promised Jacob.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say that. I was. Most High in Christ. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it. It's like a situation, because I was having a conversation today with somebody about Jacob and Esau. And Rachel had to make a decision to give the blessing to Jacob. She was actually doing exactly what we read right there. She was doing the cause, what was caused from the Lord, because the Lord had prophesied. I mean, the Lord had already told her that the elder shall serve the younger. He had already told her who's supposed to get the blessing. So you're right. It's just like the same thing. The Most High put that in effect and put that on the heart of Rachel to act. All right. Now go down to 1 Kings chapter 12 and verse 16.
Verse 16.
Come on.
So when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying,
Now listen to what they said. Now they about to come at his neck. Read.
what portion have we in David?
What do we got to do with the king? What do we got to do with Judah? That's what they saying. What do we got to do with Judah? Remember, all the tribes was broken. You know, they were in their own area, right? And you got the northern kingdom and you got the southern kingdom. So Israel, all Israel said, what do we got to do with David, man? We don't got no parts of David. Y'all got y'all thing, we got our thing. That's the mentality that they're operating in. Read.
Neither, Salakia, neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse.
Read.
To your tents.
So we don't have any inheritance to your land, to anything that's coming to you. That's yours. We don't got nothing to do with that, right? Read.
O Israel,
Come on.
now see to thine own house.
Come on.
David. So Israel departed unto their tents.
I want y'all to understand what's going on. Remember, this is about the split. This is about the split. Verse 17.
Verse 17. But as for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them.
What is he saying? What are they saying right there? Verse 17. But and it's so important. A lot of things that we see is so important. Verse 17 is so important because it says, listen what it says. It says, but as for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the city of Judah. So you have some from the northern kingdom, right? From Israel that dwelt in Judah. All right? Because everybody wasn't from the southern kingdom that was there. And we're going to see that later. But if you were in Judah, Rehoboam reigned over you. So Judah reigned over you. So you would be a companion. You would be one that we'll see later. Remind me when we get to Ezekiel, talk about this. All right, verse 18. Go ahead, what you got?
So is this other Israelites ruling over other Israelites or no?
Okay, Rehoboam is ruling over all Israel. I mean, all Judah, right? But you have, okay, in Judah, you have Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, right? But let's say Asher is there. Let's say somebody from Manasseh is there. Who will rule over them? Jehoram, because they're in Judah. You understand? Like, dominantly, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi is there, right? So let's say young man Angel not here right now, but he would be a part of the northern kingdom. If he was living among us, Judah, he would still be a part of the northern kingdom, a part of the northern kingdom, but he'll be living up with us, and Rehoboam will reign over him. That's what it's saying, and it's a reason why I'm bringing this out when we get to the book of Ezekiel.
I don't want to cut. So is he reigning? Is he being like that because of what King Solomon did?
Everything is about what King Solomon did. He caused that division. He caused that split. Go ahead.
So Salaki, I think I got it now. So it says, so Israel departed unto their tent. So that sounds like some of the kingdom, the northern kingdom, they left from under his rule.
Right.
And then everybody who stayed, which was mostly Judah, Benjamin, and Levi,
Right.
Were under Rehoboam. But if somebody from a different tribe decided to stay
Right.
in the cities, they were ruled over by him.
Rehoboam. And even if you was Judah and you was in Israel,
Right.
right? Jeroboam is gonna reign over you. So in Judah you got Rehoboam, and in Israel you got Jehoram. I hope I didn't say it twice, but yeah, you got it. And that's important. You know why that's important? That's important when we get to the New Testament, because there was some Israelites that was there that wasn't from Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, that was there in Judah during the time of the Messiah. And we're going to see that later. Verse 18.
Verse 18, the king Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was over the tribute.
Now, this is when he knew it was real. He knew this was real at this time. Go ahead.
And all Israel stoned him with
All
stones.
Israel did what?
Stoned him.
So the king of Judah, Rehoboam, he sent Adoram. And when he sent Adoram, who was over the tribute, over the bread, they killed him. All Israel killed him, right? Keep reading.
That he died.
Come on.
Therefore, King Rehoboam made speed to get him up to his chariots to flee to Jerusalem.
So he had to get up out of there. He had to get up out of there. Remember, there was a lot of tension between the two tribes. This is why this is so important. What this does is this sets you up for the New Testament. This sets you up and give you the geographic layout of the New Testament. It shows you who and what was going on and who was there. All right, verse 19.
Verse 19. So Israel rebelled against the house of David unto this day.
So what that means is Israel rebelled against who? Judah. Israel rebelled against Judah when? Even to this day. 1 King chapter 12 and verse 20. Read.
Verse 20. And it came to pass, when all Israel heard that Jeroboam was come again, that they sent and called him unto the congregation and made him king over all Israel.
So this is the actual split right here. This is making it official. After that, all Israel made Jeroboam who? All Israel. Notice it says all Israel made Jeroboam king over them, to reign over them, right? Keep reading.
And made him king over all Israel.
Come on.
There was none that followed the house of David, but the tribe of Judah only.
Judah only. That's very, very important. And Judah in the New Testament is called what?
Judah.
It's very important. That's very, very tight. Go ahead.
Salakia. So when it's literally saying Judah only, that's just
Judah.
So not Benjamin.
Not yet.
Okay, come on.
Nobody yet.
Okay.
We're gonna get into it. Go ahead.
Was Jeroboam was he a little bit more lenient than the other than Rehoboam?
Well, that's what it sounds like.
That's why I would think they would choose him. Like,
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Remember, Rehoboam said, "Listen, man, I'm coming heavy. I'm coming hard. You get ready. Hey, it's getting ready to go down, right?"
Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
That's kind of like what we
Because this
do
is
right
a really
now, though,
important
right?
Subject. Go ahead.
That's kind of like what we do right now. Like, it's easier just to go inside the church.
It's easy. It's easy. You're right. You coming up in here? Look, you gonna work. You gonna put the work in. Go ahead.
Yeah, Salakia, if I could, there's been so many times where I've seen real world situations, like in my life, where it will be something going on at like a slavery,
Right.
and you have a manager who is doing something similar to like making everything just so grievous.
Right.
And then there's changes that could be made, and the workers go to them.
Yeah.
They never make the changes, and then you got everybody who got some sense leaving the department, and then
Right.
that department is in shambles.
Yeah.
So I said that reminds me of situations that I've been in myself.
Right. And it does. I mean, you get a chance to see a lot of things that take place throughout the world into the scriptures. That's why it's important. And I try to tell our people, look, you gotta read the scriptures and you gotta bring it to life. You gotta bring it to life, like y'all just did, right? First Kings chapter 12 and verse 21. So
20.
remember, it says Judah only. So now here comes Benjamin. Read.
21. And when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he assembled all the house of Judah.
He assembled all the house of Judah. Judah would be in the New Testament the Jews. Read.
With the tribe of
With
Benjamin.
who?
The tribe of Benjamin.
That's very important. So it was Judah and Benjamin. Read.
And 180,000 chosen men,
Come on.
which were warriors, to fight against the house of Israel, to bring the kingdom again to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon.
So they ready. We ready to get it in. So now let me ask you a question. Okay, so let's say Judah is Judah and Benjamin, right? Can they do any service? Can they do the Passover?
Well, Salakia, aren't the Levites supposed to carry that out?
Most high in Christ. Most high in Christ. Go to 2 Chronicles chapter 11 and verse 13.
If you want.
That's so important. That's so important because guess what? You need the priesthood. The priesthood is vital to the covenant. Just like in the New Testament, the priesthood is vital to the covenant. The question is, well, what priesthood is it in the New Testament? What priesthood is it in the New Testament?
Salakia, sir, say that again.
What priesthood is it in the New Testament? I mean, we're priesthood, but who's the high priest in the New Testament?
The high priest in the New Testament would be Christ,
Which he took after the order of who?
Melchizedek.
My man. 2 Chronicles chapter 11 and verse 13. Let's get it.
You said chapter 11 and verse 13?
Con.
Second Chronicles chapter 11 and verse 13.
Read.
And the priests and the Levites that were all in Israel resorted to him out of all their coasts. For the Levites left their suburbs and their possession and came to Judah and Jerusalem.
So that's very important. So the Levites, so there was Levites there, like you said. They can't go ahead.
They got suburbs? I've never seen that.
Remember, they didn't have any land.
Okay.
They didn't get no inheritance.
Right. They didn't really. They had to.
Hey.
Okay.
Yeah, but this ain't what white folks like.
The garages?
Go ahead. So Salakia. So remember, they left their possessions and they came where? To Judah and Jerusalem. Well, who was in Judah and Jerusalem? Who was there? Just said it.
That was Jeroboam, right?
Right? No. It was Rehoboam.
Yeah.
So the Rehoboam is Solomon's son.
Right.
Okay.
And who was there? Judah
Benjamin.
and Benjamin. Now who's there? The Levites. Keep reading on.
For Jeroboam and his sons had cast them off from executing the priest's office unto the Lord.
So they couldn't even, under Jeroboam, they couldn't even do their job because he was wilding. He was over there sacrificing pigs and all kinds of shit. Yeah, he was wilding. He was. Keep going. Read.
He ordained him priest for the high places, and for the devils, and for the calves which he had made. And after them, out of all the tribes of Israel, such a set their hearts to seek the Lord God of Israel came to Jerusalem to sacrifice unto the Lord God of their fathers. So they straightened the kingdom of Judah.
You read verse 17.
Yep, I'm reading verse 17.
Go ahead.
So they strengthened the kingdom of Judah.
So who strengthened the kingdom of Judah?
The Levites.
The Levites. How did they strengthen? Because they came and they was able to execute the priesthood, right? They was able to do that, right? So now in verse 17, it says, read it again.
So they strengthened the kingdom of Judah
Come on.
and made Rehoboam the son of Solomon strong.
So they made him strong, right? Read.
3 years. For 3 years they walked in the way of David and Solomon.
For 3 years, they walked in the way of Solomon. So now we understand this. Go back to 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 18. Now we understand it. I just want to lay it out again. I want you to see it again, because we want to make sure that you understand that it was Judah only. Judah only. Right? But Israel was tripping. They was drawn. They was wild. Jeroboam was wildin'. So this is what the Most High has to say in 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 18. You got it?
2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 18. And they said unto Elijah, what I have to do.
Salakia, 2 Kings
Oh, snap.
chapter
I'm at First
17
Kings.
and verse 18. And we get a chance, while he's pulling it, we get a chance to see the division of the kingdom at this point. If you look at the screen, you'll see the division of the kingdom. You'll see Israel was divided into two different nations. That's very important. Two different nations. The southern kingdom was Judah. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. The Levites made Judah strong. The northern kingdom was Israel. Israel was Reuben, Simeon, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Manasseh, Dan, Naphtali, and Gad. All right. We're missing one more. And Ephraim. Salakia. I should put it in right now. I ain't gonna put it in right now. You got that?
Okay.
Let's get it.
2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 18.
Read.
Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight.
So Israel was moved out of his sight completely. And we're gonna get a chance to look at that, right? Keep reading.
But there was none left but the tribe of Judah only.
There was only tribe of Judah. Now, this is the reason why I talked about the other tribes. Go to Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 19 through 22. This is the reason why you got to understand that when we read about other Israelites being in Judah under Rehoboam, right? This is the reason why right here. All right. And notice it says two different nations on this slide that I have right here. They're two different nations. So if there was two different nations, let's examine it and see if they were.
Where you in it?
Ezekiel 37, verse 19.
You said 37 and 19?
Okay.
Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 19.
One.
Say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel.
And the tribes of who?
And the tribes of Israel.
Let me ask you a question. Who is over the tribes of Israel that we read about in King? Go ahead.
It's again in Rehoboam.
No.
I keep getting mixed up.
Yeah, right. That's why I'm asking.
It's so Jeroboam.
Right. He's over the tribe of Israel. Read.
The tribes of Israel, his fellows, and will pit them with him.
Now, go ahead.
Even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand.
Read.
And the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thy hand before their eyes.
Come on.
And say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among their heathen,
Come on.
whether they be gone, and I will gather them on every side.
Read.
And bring them into their own land.
Read.
And I will make them one nation.
And I will make them what?
And I will make them one nation.
Come on.
And a land upon the mountains of Israel.
Read.
And one king shall be king to them all.
Read.
And they shall be no more two nations.
They shall be no more what?
And they shall be no more two nations.
That's very important to understand that at this point, they were two different nations. So he says, and they shall be no more two nations. Read.
Neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all.
So now we understand that the northern kingdom was Israel. The northern kingdom was Israel, and the southern kingdom was who?
Judah,
Which is called what in the New Testament?
Jews.
Exactly. It's very important to understand that. So let's see what exactly happened to the northern kingdom. 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 22. All right? Because the Most High was tight with Jeroboam. They was wilding down there. But I'm here to tell you that Israel followed along too. Israel, remember, it gave a time period. It says they were strong for how many years?
3 years.
3 years. 3 years. It didn't say that he was strong for his whole layout. It says 3 years. So 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 22.
For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did. They departed not from them
Come on.
until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight.
So he removed Israel out of his sight. He was done with them. I want y'all to understand that's very important. He was done with them. And you're going to see how he was done with them. Read.
Until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants, the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
All right. Now that's where that Assyrian Hebrew comes from. All right. So they were moved out of his sight. He took them out of the land and he sent them to where?
Assyria.
Assyria unto this day, right? So verse 40.
Verse 40.
Salakia. Go to 2nd Ezra. Y'all know what I want. In the Apocrypha. Second Ezra 13 and verse 40.
Ooh.
Remember, this is dealing with the northern kingdom. We're examining the northern kingdom.
Apocrypha.
What happened with, yes, in the Apocrypha. What happened with the northern kingdom? What is the Most High saying?
this
Remember,
sounds crazy.
he says, while y'all pulling that, I want to go back to it. Just go ahead and pull it. I got it.
This
Remember, he
sounds too much.
said in 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 23, it says, the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said, by the hands of his servants, the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria until this day, right? So now we're going to go to, you got it?
I'm waiting for you to say it out again.
What is it? Is it 2nd Ezra chapter 13 and verse 40? I didn't know. I don't have it jotted down. Ain't it 2nd Ezra or is it 1st Ezra? I don't have my.
I thought it was second interest.
Yeah, I think it's 2nd Ezra 13 verse. It should start off. Those are the 10 tribes. And remember, Jeroboam had 10 tribes. Jeroboam had 10 tribes, and Rehoboam had 2 with some Levites to execute the duties of a priest. You got it?
Answer.
Read.
The book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 13, verse 40.
Come on.
Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Osei the king.
So Osei is Hosea. So it says these are the 10 tribes. The 10 tribes represent who? What kingdom? North or south?
Say that again, sir.
The 10 tribes, they represent the north or the south kingdom? Southern.
South.
No, northern kingdom.
The 10 tribes? Oh, Salakia.
Northern kingdom.
But Benjamin, Judah, and Levi are the southern.
Southern kingdom.
All right, I got to
All
remember.
right.
We the southern kingdom.
Come on, read it again.
Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners
Come on.
out of their own land in the time of Osei, the king whom Salmansar, the king of Assyria, led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land.
Read.
Verse 41. But they took this counsel among themselves.
So this is very important. I want you to slow down a little bit. They took counsel among themselves. They didn't take counsel with the Assyrians. They took counsel among themselves. Read.
that they would leave the multitude of the heathen
Come on.
and go forth into a further country
Read.
where never mankind dwelt.
No, with some men, mankind dwelt.
Where never mankind dwelt.
Where never mankind dwelt. Right? Read. 42.
that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land.
That's very important, which they kept their statutes. That's vital. Which they kept their statutes, because we're going to examine about keeping your statutes. Verse 43.
Verse 43. And they entered into Euphrates.
Where did they enter into?
Euphrates.
That's very important. They entered into the Euphrates. Read.
By the narrow passages of the river.
Come on.
Verse 44. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over.
Come on.
Verse 45.
Read.
For through that country,
read.
there was a great way to go.
Come on.
Namely, a year and a half.
That's very, very important. So wherever they went, it took them a year and a half. Go ahead.
Salakia. After reading this, I don't understand how a lot of the fake Old Testament Israelites are the ones that believe they stayed in Africa could
Right.
still think they were in Africa
Right.
after a year
A year in the water.
and a half.
And a half in the water. They think they went across the street.
Good night.
They just went across the stream. A year and a half. But I made a map for that. All right, keep reading.
And the same region is called Asareth.
All right, so look, let's get a recap. So the northern kingdom, they went into a further land where never mankind dwelt, right? And where they went, where it says they held still the flood, that means they held still the waves. Remember, the ocean is mean. It's a mean ocean, right? The ocean, especially dealing with the Atlantic, it has a flow to it that you have to go and flow. You got, like, if it's twirling that way or going this way, you got to go that way. And if it's going this way, you got to go that way. It's a road map that you go. But guess what? It says the Most High held still the flood, meaning it held still the waves till they passed over. The same place was called Aras. Say it.
Asareth.
Asareth.
I think.
All right, which means land, right? So now let's look at the map and let's examine it. Read verse 43 again. And if you look, you can see a map with this. And the map will lay out exactly what was going on. Go ahead. I want you to slow it down too as you read.
Go
ahead.
And they entered into the Euphrates.
So they entered into the Euphrates, as you can see the arrow on the map. The Euphrates is right there. So they entered into the Euphrates. Read.
By the narrow passages of the river.
So you can see the route that they're going. Go ahead.
For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood.
And as you can see my arrow, I'm going along as you read. Go ahead.
Till they were passed over.
So they passed over. Go ahead.
For through that country,
This country. Go
there
ahead.
was a great way to go.
So it's a great way to go. Here's the great way to go. Go ahead.
Namely, a year and a half.
Go ahead.
And the same region is called Asareth.
All right. So now, if you look at Asareth, right, you can actually see. What I did was I looked at an I went to a Jewish encyclopedia. And I looked it up. And I found it. I found it in a Jewish encyclopedia. Right? Can you see that?
I'm trying to get back on it. I can't see it.
You want me to read that?
They found it. I found it in a Jewish encyclopedia. So I was able to find Azareth. Am I saying that right? Azareth.
Yeah, something.
We was able to find it in the Jewish encyclopedia, and this is what it had to say. Go ahead.
JewishEncyclopedia.com, Asareth. By Morris Jastrow Jr., Kaufman, Kohler. The name of the land beyond the great river.
Now remember, this is in a Jewish encyclopedia. So it says the name of the land beyond the great river. Read.
Far away from the habitation of man.
Remember, he says where no mankind dwelt, right? Read.
In which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell.
So y'all don't think that Christopher Columbus had access to this? Because he did. Keep reading, huh?
In which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses until the time of the restoration, according to, and I'm not sure what that, but it says you have to excuse the what's that saying, Salakia, sir? It's in Roman numerals.
Go ahead, just keep going.
Columbus identified America with this land.
Now, it's very important to understand that. So what they're saying is Christopher Columbus identified this land. He identified this land before he got here because he took Hebrew interpreters with him. All right. And we're going to examine that. Go ahead. That's it.
It just says after that, translated by Dr. C. Gross.
All right. So real quick recap. Remember, it says in a further country where no mankind dwelt, right? And that what that land was called. And remember, it also says that they went there to do what? To keep their statues,
Which they couldn't in the
which
other.
they couldn't keep in their other land, right? So look at this. Read that right. Go ahead.
So the Lord knew all this was going to happen. He knew Columbus already saw it. He knew
Absolutely.
he knew this all was going to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So remember, it says that they will go to a land and they would do what? Try to keep their statutes and their judgments, keep the things that was taught to them. Remember, they took counsel among themselves. So guess what? The 10 Commandments was found in Ohio, in North America. You got it?
Khan Adawan Khan.
Let's get it.
10 Commandments found in North America.
Mm-hmm.
In November of 1860, David Rurick of Newark, Ohio, found an inscribed stone in a burial mound about 10 miles south of Newark, Ohio.
Come on.
The stone is inscribed on all sides with a condensed version of the 10 Commandments.
How did that get here? This guy here before Christopher Columbus. This shows the evidence that these were the 10 tribes of Israel that was doing what? That they might do what? That they might keep their statues, which they never kept where? In their own land.
Khan.
This is the evidence. This is the crumb trail. This is simple. This is simple. How would the 10 Commandments get in Ohio, in North America, before Christopher Columbus got here? I'll tell you how it got here. It got here because we brought it here.
Right.
We brought it here. All right. You got any more on that?
Just a little bit more.
Come on.
Let me pause it.
I'm gonna go to the next slide.
You want to go to the next one?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the next slide. Because guess what? The 10 Commandments was found in 2 places. Now I'm gonna break some things down to y'all in a minute about these two findings. All right. So now we see that the 10 Commandments was found where? In New Mexico. Read it.
10 Commandments found in New Mexico. The Los Lunas inscription is an abridged version of the Decalogue or 10 Commandments, carved into the flat face of a large boulder resting on the side of Hidden Mountain near Los Lunas, New Mexico, about 35 miles south of Albuquerque.
All right. So now, guess what? Let me tell y'all something about this. Now, I actually had the pleasure of actually going and traveling and looking at the 10 Commandments in Ohio, right? The 10 Commandments in Ohio was written in block Hebrew, okay? And what they did was the block Hebrew and the Hebrew that they found in Mexico, the Hebrew that they found in Mexico is older than the Hebrew that they found in Ohio. You know what that shows? It shows that they was traveling back and forth. Because the block Hebrew didn't come out until about, according to what they had found, the block Hebrew didn't come out until about 500 BC. The Hebrew that they found in New Mexico, that dates, this is Paleo. So Paleo Hebrew was in New Mexico and the block Hebrew was in Ohio. They're 2 different dates. 2 different dates. The Hebrew that they found in New Mexico, it goes all the way back to the Assyrian time, right? But the Hebrew that they found, the block Hebrew that they found in Mexico, goes back to 500 BC. We came over here like around between 800 and 700 BC. All right. So here we see the 10 Commandments found in Ohio and New Mexico. And why? Because they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their homeland. And that's the evidence of it. Now, the question that we ask is to prove that Christopher Columbus knew that the Israelites was here. Why did he take Hebrew translators? Read that out. This is what Columbus did.
Why take a Hebrew interpreter? Louis de Torres died 1493. He was Christopher Columbus's interpreter on his first voyage to America.
He was one of the boys that he left here and he died. Go ahead.
De Torres was a convert, apparently born Yosef ben Halevi Halvrai, chosen by Columbus for his knowledge of Hebrew.
Of what?
Of Hebrew,
Go ahead.
Chaldaic, and Arabic.
You know what's heavy about this? What I did was, according to Christopher Columbus, he was going to where?
He was going to like the red dots.
Yeah, he claimed that he was. But guess what? I looked up their language during that time. They didn't speak none of these languages.
Wow.
They didn't speak none of these. You know who would be speaking these languages? The Israelites.
Khan.
I was about to ask, weren't we under people that spoke these languages?
Well, the Chaldaic, that would be the Chaldeans. In the Arabic, that would be like the Aramaic.
Khan, because we went through there were certain Israelites that had to deal with those Ishmaelites and would have probably picked up those languages as well.
Right. I want you to read down at the bottom because a lot of people need to understand that those that was already here, the 10 tribes that was already here, they went through everything that we went through too. And to prove it, I pulled this out from a manuscript, a letter from Christopher Columbus dealing with the king. Can you read that in February of 1495?
Khan Adawan Khan. In February 1495, Christopher Columbus took captive over 1,500 Arawaks. About 550 of them were shipped to Spain as slaves, with about 40% dying en route.
So we know that the transatlantic slave trade started where?
In America.
In America. It's very important to understand that the indigenous people in this land went through the same thing that we went through on the west coast of Africa. But understand a couple things here. Dominantly, the 10 tribes of Israel was not where? Dominantly, the 10 tribes of Israel was not where?
They were not in Jerusalem.
Right. They wasn't on that side of the earth.
Right.
They were on this side of the earth. So who was on that side of the earth?
The Southern Kingdom.
Which is who?
Judah, Benjamin, Levi.
That's very important. That's very important. Because you see language that a lot of Israelites like to debate back and forth and say, it's only Judah, da 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 da. No, listen. The reason why a lot of times we see information dealing with Judah, because the northern kingdom was over here. Dominantly, they was here. The southern kingdom was dominantly still over there. That's very, 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 very important. Go to 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 7. So now let's examine the southern kingdom. We know what happened with the northern kingdom. We know that the northern kingdom was where? Over here. Dominantly here. The southern kingdom was still dominantly over there. All right? And this is still operating under the old covenant. Very important. 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 7.
For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt.
So we know who the children of Israel is and who he's dealing with right here, right? Because he's talking about how they sinned coming out of the land of Egypt. Read.
From under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
Come on.
And had feared other gods, and walked in statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel they had, which they had made.
Go down to verse 13.
Verse 13. Yet the Lord testified against Israel.
The Lord did what?
the Lord testified against
Now,
Israel.
the question that you should be asking yourself, is he talking about all 12 tribes? Not at all. This
Nah.
is how you know, because of the context. Keep reading.
Yet the Lord testified against Israel and against Judah by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, turn ye from the evil ways and keep my commandments and my statutes according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I have sent to you by my servants and prophets.
Verse 18.
Verse 18. Therefore, the Lord was very angry with Israel.
So the Most High was very angry with Israel. We're reading about how he was angry with Israel. We know that he moved Israel what? Out of his sight. We know that Israel went over to the over to the Americans. We know that. All right. But I'm examining this about the southern kingdom too. And look what he had to say about the southern kingdom too. Read.
Therefore, the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight.
Come on.
There was none left but the tribe of Judah only.
Come on.
Also, Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord, their God, but walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made.
What that mean? Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord, their God, but they walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made. Who going? Who got it?
Wasn't damn.
Go ahead.
Is that talking about following the precepts of men? Like
Absolutely. It's talking
Good
about
night.
following precepts of men. And he's talking about how Judah followed after Israel. Remember, Israel was moved out of his sight. They on this side. And Judah started doing the same salaki. They started doing the same thing. Right? Verse 20. This is your answer.
And the Lord rejected all the seed of Israel.
No, some of the seed of Israel.
All the seed of Israel.
So all Israel was rejected. Go ahead.
And afflicted them and delivered them into the hand of spoilers
Come on.
until he had cast them out of his sight.
Now, stop. So now you got Judah and you got Benjamin. They both, the Most High had cast them both off. What about his covenant? What about his promise? Didn't he promise Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Didn't he give them a promise? But yet you have Judah and you have Israel, both wilding. The Most High got rid of both of them. What you got?
Isn't it like, okay, like you my son, you promised I made you a promise, but that don't mean I can't punish you.
Right.
Is that saying the same thing? Like they don't wash away the promise, it's just a punishment, right?
It's just well, we about to see. Because you got to think, he promised them. Go to Genesis 17 and 7. It was a promise that was made to Abraham. There was a promise that was made to Isaac. There was a promise that was made to Jacob. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob received promises. All right? But yet, these descendants that came from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all of them was wild. And so the Most High was done with all of them. He was done with all Israel. He was sick of them. He was done with them, right? Genesis 17 and 7.
Then Abraham fell onto his face.
This is dealing with the promise. Remember, he made a promise to who? To Abraham. And we're about to read about this promise. All right, go ahead.
Then Abraham fell onto his face.
17 and 7.
17 and 7. Okay. And the angel of the Lord found her.
Genesis 17 and 7.
Oh, snap. I'm tripping. It's Lakia. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee and their generations, for an everlasting covenant.
For what?
For an everlasting covenant.
Hold on. For an everlasting covenant. How can it be an everlasting covenant if everybody's out of the Most High sight? Let's keep going.
To be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee.
And to thy seed after thee. But we just read that all the seed of Israel was taken out of the Most High sight. What about the promise? Verse 8.
And I will give unto thee and thy seed after thee, the land wherein thou art a stranger, and in all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession.
For what?
For an everlasting possession.
How could it be an everlasting possession if they took if everybody is gone? Right? Keep reading.
For an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said unto Abraham, thou shalt keep my covenant thereof.
This is why the New Testament was so necessary, because of the promise. The Most High made a promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Just like he loved David, he loved Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and he made a promise. But everybody was wild, and everybody fell off. Go to Genesis chapter 22 and verse 16 and 17. The New Testament was so necessary because the Most High made an oath. He made a promise, right?
I mean, why would, if you're a man, you gotta keep your word. I mean,
you gotta keep your word. If the Most High can't keep his word,
who can?
Who can? Well, let's see if the Most High gonna keep his word and how he gonna deal with the fact that all 12 tribes, all the seed of Israel fell out of his sight. How is he gonna deal with it? Genesis 22, 16 to 17.
And said, by myself I had sworn, saith the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing and hast not withheld thy son,
talking about Abraham, go ahead,
thy only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies.
How would the seed possess if all the seed fell? All the seed was taken out of his sight. I'm going to show you. I ain't even going to go there right there. I'm going to go to, so how would this happen? How would the Most High make this happen? I want you to go to Hosea chapter 1 and verse 6. Let's see how he going to make it happen. But just remember, who's not on that side of the earth?
Judah, Benjamin, and Levi.
They not on what side? On this side. And the northern kingdom is still over on the side that we call today Africa, right? So let's see how the Most High going to deal with it, because everybody had fell off, right? But the promise that he made, the oath that he made, how could the Most High be as great as he is? I'm going to show you. Hosea 1 and 6. You got it?
And she conceived again and bare a daughter. And God said unto him, call her name Lo Ruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel.
Why won't he have any mercy on the house of Israel? Because the house of Israel, he's taking them out of his sight. They on this side of the earth. So he says, I will not have no more mercy under the old covenant. I want y'all to keep that in mind. Under the old covenant, under the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them out of the way, right? Go down to verse 7.
But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah.
He says, but I will have mercy on the house of Judah. Not on Israel, but I will have mercy on Judah. Read.
And I will save them by the Lord their God.
Come on.
And I will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. Now we have.
All right, that's why. So now he says, I won't have mercy on the northern kingdom, which is on this side of the earth, but I will have mercy on Judah, which is still over there. That's important.
Well,
go ahead.
He's not going. He's not going back on his promise. It's just
not at all.
It's just a punishment.
Oh, he's going to give him that. Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to give him that everlasting covenant.
He never said, "I'm gonna take away. I'm canceling the covenant. It's just not gonna be no more."
Right. He never said that. But they, like you said, they
said, "Nigga, go away." I'm Salaki.
Nah, but it's too wild. You're right. But what's vital and very important that we have to understand, and all Bible readers have to understand, all Jacobites, Black, Hispanic, and Native American people have to understand that the Most High said what? He said, I will not have mercy on Israel. Israel is going to stay cast out of my sight. But he said, but Judah, I will have mercy on them. I'll have mercy on Judah. So what we have to do is we have to examine the mercy of Judah. And when we examine the mercy of Judah, we see it in Ezra chapter 1. Go to Ezra chapter 1. Let's see the mercy for the southern kingdom. The southern kingdom obtained mercy.
We going 1 and 2.
You can start at verse 1.
Ezra chapter 1. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he had made a proclamation throughout all of his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying,
So he made a decree, right? Throughout all the kingdom, right? Where you at?
verse 2.
Come on.
Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia,
This is what the decree had to say. Read.
the Lord God of heaven have given me all the kingdoms of the earth.
So he said, the Most High gave me all the kingdoms of the earth. The Most High did this. Read.
He hath charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem,
Now let's see. Can you read?
which is in Judah,
Which is in where?
which is in Judah.
That's very important. Which is in Judah. Judah. It doesn't say which is in Israel. It says which is in Judah. Go down to verse 5. Let's see who
Verse
is charged to make this kingdom.
Then he rose up the chief of the fathers of Judah and Benjamin and the priests and the Levites with all of them whose spirit God had raised up to go up to build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem. And they all
No, that's why in Jerusalem. So when it says in verse 5, then rose up the chief of the fathers of who?
the chief of the fathers of Judah
Go ahead.
and Benjamin
Go ahead.
and the priests and the Levites.
So that's very important. What are you seeing right there? What is that? Who is that? That the northern kingdom or the southern kingdom? Go
I
ahead.
believe we're on the bottom. We're the northern, right?
Southern
The
kingdom. Very important. The
I got
southern kingdom was below. The northern kingdom was up.
So we're I got
Lord. So and who was made up of the southern kingdom?
The southern kingdom is the rest of it, the 10 tribe, the rest of the 10.
So, and the way I've been remembering is
That's throwing me off.
we in Delaware South,
That's why I keep saying it. Go ahead.
Benjamin, Judah, and Levi
Right.
are going to be the southern kingdom,
Exactly.
and then the rest.
Exactly. So this is still under the old covenant. So remember, under the old covenant, who obtained mercy?
Under the old covenant,
Who obtained mercy?
It was Judah, right?
it
It was Judah.
Yeah.
Who didn't obtain mercy?
the northern kingdom,
Which is,
the Gentiles.
yeah, they became the Gentiles, but which is Israel. That's very important. I want to keep it biblically tight. We got to keep it biblically tight. All right. So we see that Judah obtained mercy under the old covenant, but Israel did not obtain mercy under the old covenant. Israel went over to the Americans, right? Y'all got it?
Okay.
Everybody got it? I want you to go. This is the reason why we see languages like this. Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 26. You got it?
Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 26.
Read.
Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them.
With who? Who is the them? The them is with the 12 tribes of Israel because he made that promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So he says, I will make a covenant of peace with them. Remember, Melchizedek was way before way before the 12 tribes came out of the loins of Abraham. So the priesthood for that high priest that would be established forever, that was already put in place. Y'all understand? That was already put in place before Isaac and Jacob. It was already put in place. So the Most High already had this new covenant in place. All right, he already had this covenant in place. So when he says, "Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them," that "them" is talking about the seed of Israel. He read,
It shall be an everlasting covenant with them,
come on.
and I will place them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore.
So listen, that still had to be established. How could that be established if both tribes had failed? And Judah only obtained mercy under the old covenant. All of this is so vital for you to understand this book, so you can understand these scriptures, so you can give the proper breakdown in the New Testament. All right. So what was needed? A mediator. What is a mediator? A mediator is a person who attempts to make people involved in a conflict come together, come to an agreement. Who had the conflict in the old covenant?
Obviously, this is not a mediator between the Lord and in Israel.
You sure?
Because if that was the case, then the Lord was on the edge of just saying, you know what, forget the promise. I ain't, you know.
Well, he wasn't saying forget the promise, because he made the promise with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But in order to get this promise through, you got to think differently. In order to get this promise through, the Most High need a mediator. Needs a mediator. What's a mediator? A mediator is someone that comes between two parties with tension. Who would be the two parties with tension
In this situation,
in this situation?
so it will be the Lord,
The Most High God and Israel. It's tension here. We need a mediator. That's what we need, a mediator. Go ahead.
Salaki, if I could, it's almost as if there's a situation where two parties have a breach of contract and they have to bring somebody in.
That's the problem. That's the problem. It's the issue. And now they need to bring someone in.
Yeah.
Go to Hebrews 9 and 15. You hit it right. You hit the nail right on the head.
Ooh, wait.
There's a problem and a conflict between the two. And that conflict between the two, they need a mediator. And that mediator you will find in Hebrews 9 and 15. You got it?
Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 15.
Let's get it.
And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament.
He is the what?
He is the mediator of the New
Who's
Testament.
the mediator of the New Testament? It's Yahushua. He's the one that's being the mediator between the two parties that have tension. Read.
And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament,
Come on.
that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament.
Well, that was under the old covenant. That was under that old covenant. That's what he's saying. That was under that first testament. Who did the most? This is a killer to Christians. A killer. Because Christians like to say, well, the new covenant is only for the Israelites. And the old covenant, the new covenant is only for everybody, and the old covenant was only for the Israelites. Well, guess what? This mediator was sent to the new covenant for those that was under the first testament.
Wait.
Read that again.
Hebrews chapter 9, verse 15.
Read.
And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament.
He's the mediator of the New Testament. So Yahushua is the mediator of the New Testament, because the mediator is one that comes between two parties that have tension. So he's the mediator of the New Testament. Read.
That by means of death,
That by the means of his death, meaning going to the cross. Read.
for the redemption
For
of
the redemption, for bringing back those Israelites. Read.
for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament.
Which was under the first testament. So that means that Judah and Israel, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, was under what testament? The New Testament.
New Testament.
So he's coming to redeem those that cause transgression. We know that Israel was sent over here because of what? Because of their transgression. So he's coming to redeem them that was under that old covenant. Go ahead.
And then in the New Testament, it's also I've come not to destroy, but to fulfill is in the new, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you pair it with this or no?
Well, you can, but you want to pair it with this saying that Yahushua came to do the will of the Most High. He came to do the will of the Most High. And the will of the Most High was prophesied under the First Testament, right? By the means of death for the redemption of the transgression that was under the First Testament. Read.
That were under the First Testament, that which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance.
And we know about the promise because the Most High made that promise. Most High made that promise with what? With an oath. I want you to go to Hebrews 6:16. He made that promise with an oath. And when the Most High make an oath, you got to go by it. You're only as good as your word. If your word ain't no good, you ain't no good. You got that Hebrews 6:16? Let's get it.
For men verily swear by the greater, and an oath for confirmation is to them and of all strife.
So what that means is that verily men swear by a greater. They swear by oath, right? And they confirm it. They confirm it by the end with the strife between the two is confirmed by the oath, right? Verse 17.
Verse 17, wherein God willing no more abundantly to shew unto the heirs of promise and the immutability of his counsel.
Unchangeable. The immutability is the unchangeable. It's unchangeable of his counsel, right? Read.
Confirmed it by an oath.
He confirmed it with an oath. Read.
That by two immutable things.
That's two unchangeable things. Read.
That by two immutable things in which it was impossible for God to lie.
So it's impossible for him to lie because once he make that oath, that oath is solid. This oath, he didn't say it. Read.
We might have a strong consolation, who have fled for refuge to lay hold upon the hope to set before us, which hope we have.
Go ahead.
Which hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, and which entereth into that within the veil.
So now we understand that the Most High made an oath with Israel, and that oath had to be taken out pertaining to a mediator had to come between that to make sure that these two parties with tension come together. It's like oil and water. When you're dealing with oil and water, you need a surfactant. Anybody know what a surfactant is? A surfactant is chemical that causes the two to come together and merge together. Because oil and water is tension between the two. Go ahead. I want y'all to go to Hebrews 31 and 31.
It's almost like the Lord needed a counsel almost.
No, he needed a mediator. Well, we were tripping.
What's the difference though? It's the same thing, right?
Go ahead.
So like if I could, what it kind of seems like is, since the Most High said it has to go down, but now it has to go down under certain terms to go ahead and rectify what was messed up initially.
Let me say this. You're right. It has to go down under certain terms, but those certain terms cannot break the law.
Well, so like if I could,
Go ahead.
so what I mean is, no longer can they go by the old covenant since, they messed it and they fumbled it up. They were doing the sacrifices,
Right.
this, that, and the fourth.
Right.
Now a new sacrifice has to be presented in order for them to come back.
A sacrifice of perfection.
Perfection, unblemished.
Because the sacrifice of bulls and goats can never take away the sins. So it had to, Yahweh. It was already set up. That's why I brought up the fact that before Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, before Jacob had the 12 tribes, Melchizedek was already set up. He was a priest forever. That priesthood was already in place. All right. So the Most High, under the new covenant, under the old covenant, he had to put together in preparation the new covenant. And you see it in Jeremiah 31 and 31.
I don't want to take it to sport. It's like Israel we had a no trade clause. The Lord, yeah.
Right.
Jeremiah 31 and 32.
Jeremiah 31 and
night.
31. You got it? So this is why you see the language that you see under the old covenant, that the Most High had to make a new covenant. He had to make a new covenant because it was tension between the two. So he had to bring his son to be the mediator between the two parties that have tension because of the promise that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, he made a promise with an oath, and it's the immutability of that counsel means it's unchangeable. So once he told Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, once he told Abraham that he would have an everlasting covenant of peace, right? He had to fulfill that. Even though we didn't fulfill our part, he fulfilled his part. Jeremiah 31 and 31. Let's get it.
Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
Why is he saying between the house of Israel and the house of Judah? Why is he saying that? Go ahead.
He's saying that because they were separated.
Exactly. That's so
That's
important.
the exact verse I was looking at.
Yeah, that's so important going into the New Testament. Because the only people that were still on this side of the earth in the New Testament was who?
Judah.
Judah. The northern kingdom, which is the 10 tribes, is over here. They had the northern kingdom, like you said earlier, they had went off and they have already become Gentiles, right? Keep reading.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in that day, I took them by the land to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith the Lord.
Come on.
But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel.
So this is the covenant that he would make with the house of Israel. So notice, initially in verse 31 and 31, he says, behold, the day cometh, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, right? But when you get down to verse 33, he says, this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. So he's combining them at this point. So in verse 31, they were separate. In verse 33, they was together. Go to verse 36.
Verse 36.
Come on.
If those ordinances,
Go to verse 35.
verse 30, come on. Thus saith the Lord, which giveth the sun for a light by day,
Those are ordinances. Go ahead.
and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night.
Those are the lights. Those are the stars, the moon, the sun. Those are all the lights of the heaven. Go ahead.
Which divided the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord of hosts is his name.
Come on.
And if those ordinances depart from before me, saith the Lord.
So if the sun, the moon, the stars, the light, all that's in the heaven, if they depart from before me, read.
Saith the Lord, then the seed of Israel
Then the seed of Israel. Go ahead.
also shall cease from being a nation before me forever.
Go ahead. Verse 37.
Thus saith the Lord, if heaven above can be measured and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith the Lord.
That's cold. He's telling them, he's saying, look, if the heavens above can be measured, if you can go up there and measure the heavens, then I'll cast off the children of Israel. Then I'll cast off the seed of Israel. So this right here, because of the promise that he made, had to stand.
He basically said, on my mama. Listen, he put it on,
Yeah, yeah. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 11 and verse 13. I want to read something. Salakia, you know what? We're going to pause right here. We're going to pause right here. But a recap. What we have is under the old covenant, Israel dropped the ball. They fumbled the ball. Both of them, Judah and Israel. Well, all Israel did, and then they were split into two, right? Israel dropped the ball first, and Judah dropped the ball. They both fumbled the ball. But because of the promise, just like when we read in 1 King 11, because of the promise and because of the love that he had with David, he stayed true by keeping one tribe.
Right.
Same thing. Because of the promise that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he had to keep the promise of an everlasting covenant, a redemption of all Israel. Go ahead.
Now, I broke something down like this before, and it makes a lot more sense in my tripping about the prodigal son.
No, not at all.
Okay, that's why.
Not at all.
That makes
You know why
more
this is so
sense.
heavy? What we're doing right now is because what it does is it gives us an opportunity to actually have a class where people can actually go back and they can examine it and see that we're not lying on what we're saying.
Right.
Under the old covenant, all Israel fell off. But the Most High, because of the promise that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he still stayed true to his word. And he put in place Melchizedek. That means he put a priesthood in place that was preparation for an everlasting kingdom that was forever. And he brought Judah back. He brought Judah back that he could fulfill that covenant. And that's what we're going to take off. That's what we're going to take over from part 2. And I'll really be able to get into the post-traumatic slave syndrome. I wasn't able to get to it this class, but I will be able to get to it in part 2. Because part 2 is going to deal with when we get into Yahushua and dealing with the 12 with the transatlantic slave trade. Any questions? If you don't think, you sure? No questions. Positive. All right, well, I'm gonna pass the class over to priest and officer Kwayashawan.
All right. These are the ISUPK security announcements. Rules for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes to the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to salute only. They are to learn and shed themselves in the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, a brother or sister has interest in a particular person, they are to seek counsel from the heads. Tithes, which is a commandment, Numbers 18 to 21, Ma'ashia 3, 8 through 10, which means 10 in Hebrew. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to General Malachiah or the teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for the priest, not mandatory, whatever amount you would like. Upcoming holy convocations, we have the Feast of Blowing of the Trumpets. That's Friday the 15th of September. Is that right?
Yep.
Friday the 15th of September.
And you can find it in
You can find it in
Leviticus.
chapter 23, verse 24 to 25.
Go ahead. If anyone wants to be a trooper.
If anybody wants to wear a trooper, we're all black, boots, shirts, headband, and scarf. With that, men of Israel, Maya. Stand. Ahmad Shabbat. Amaya. Barak. Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shabbat. Sorry.
Got you on the top.
That's on top.
Arms down.
Up down. Sorry.
Needs to turn. Face the sisters.
Men of Israel, Ahmad Shabbat. Amaya. Barak. Yahweh Shema Shem Yahweh Shai. Guys on top. Class 6.